The US government has shut down again, and immigrant families are panicking. From visa delays to court closures, what does it really mean for you? Today, we are going to have an immigration attorney here to have a clear chat and live so that we can clear out all these confusions. So, folks out there, thank you so much for joining us here on Immigration Talk Show. I'm Nipasa, and I'm going to be a host for this session today that's lined up. And of course, we're going to have a guest, like I was saying, and it's going to be none other than immigration attorney Justin Rivera. But before that, I have this important disclaimer. So, by watching our videos, you agree and understand that the information provided by our experts and attorneys, including comments and replies from users, is not legal advice. Use of information is at your own risk. And yes, help me welcome our guest for today, Attorney Justin Rivera from Wasden Immigration Litigation. Hi, Justin. Thank you for joining us.
Hey, thank you for having me today.
So, yes, the US government has shut down again. What do you have to say about that? Were you expecting this at all?
Yeah, it was kind of expected when we got to around 72 hours before the shutdown, because that's when, usually each party will put their best deal on the table and say, this is what we're willing to take or not take. And when that happened, the two sides were so far apart that I was pretty sure that we were going to see a shutdown. Not to speak like a political pundit, but if you're not following closely, just kind of a basic overview. The Democrats want like two different things: the extension of Affordable Care Act fees, and then a reversal of the Medicaid cuts that were in the BBB, the big bill that was passed earlier this year. So they have those two things that they want. My assumption is that it's more of a pick 'em, where they're basically saying this is what we want. Republicans come to the table, pick one of the two, and then we'll do the deal. The Republicans want a completely clean spending bill, which means there's nothing added in. It's just an agreement to extend, keep the government open, and then assurances that there'll be more negotiation down the line at the next required time. Because of that, there's just really, it seems like each party has now said, there's not gonna be any leeway. Like we want this for the Dems, one of two things to happen. Republicans are saying absolutely nothing. So the government shut down. In terms of what that means for immigration, we'll go over that. Obviously, there's a few pretty important actors here: ICE, USCIS, the EOIR, which is going to be your immigration courts, CBP, and then the Department of State. So hopefully we can touch on each of those entities and what the impact is going to be of the government closure, which I'm not like dialed in Hollywood. I'm not dialed in Washington, so I can't sit back and say I have inside information to this or that. But I can say, just from what I'm reading and seeing, I assume the government's going to be shut down for a while. Hopefully it's just a month, but it would not shock me if the closure went over the last closure that we dealt with under the first Trump administration.
There, if you want more clarification, if you have questions with regard to the US government shutting, which has shut down right now, and you have questions maybe with regard to your visa or your status, have too many questions, maybe you're panicking, join us, ask your friends also to join us. And we are streaming live right now on YouTube. Our handle is at Immigration Talk Show. Share this with your friends, and you can also check us out on LinkedIn, Facebook, and on X as well. So check us out. And of course, Justin, I think my question to you would be, what exactly happens to immigration services during a government shutdown? Like, which stay open and which stop?
Yeah, so let's kind of take it through the list of what agency does what, and then whether or not their function is impacted, right? So you have ICE. I think everyone at this point is familiar with who ICE is. ICE is deemed an essential law service, law enforcement work. So they're going to continue to operate at pretty much full capacity. You may see very slight furloughs, but my guess would be nobody gets furloughed with ICE. A big thing, though, for people that are in the United States in F1 status, SEVIS is going to continue without interruption. So you're not going to be dealing with any issues with SEVIS if you have need of it, transferring universities, updating information. So that should all continue to run. USCIS should remain unchanged. I am aware that the acting director of USCIS decided to wade into the political sphere and assert that the closure of the government will somehow impact ICE's ability to process benefits. That's wrong. There's no justification for that. They're a fee-funded agency, which means you pay the government for a service and they utilize that money in order to, among other things, pay the people that work for ICE. That work for USCIS. So USCIS should be unchanged. To say otherwise is being disingenuous. So I don't believe that they should be able to utilize this as a justification for delayed processing and benefits. Will they try to do it? It would not shock me. Nothing would shock me at this point with this administration. But traditionally, there is no change to the processing of benefits. Cases should still be processed within the parameters that are, known by their processing times. Premium processing should still exist. To my knowledge, there's been no move to suspend it at this point. We'll see if that changes. But for now, it looks like it remains unchanged. I do know that there are people who are concerned about E-Verify's suspension because E-Verify being suspended is obviously going to make it more difficult to onboard employees. I know that there are alternatives that USCIS themselves actually posited during the last shutdown, manually verifying I-9 documents, then the alternative methods that they've proposed. They have in the past, when the government has been closed, allowed for a delay in I-9ing employees to commiserate with how long the government has been closed. So that's possible as well. But the very real issue will be if you're a contractor and the E-Verify is the only way that the individual can be brought in, then I know that that's going to create issues with them. So that's something to watch for. But by and large, if you're interacting with USCIS, it shouldn't drastically change timelines. And until evidence comes out to negate that, then we'll see. I did read this morning that the DHS has essentially come out and said that during the shutdown, they plan to furlough around 8% of their staff. And specifically, it looks like that staff will be people who are basically responsible for the humanitarian aspects of their function, which would be up to and including things like overseeing facilities to make sure that they are humane, the civil rights division. So I think if you paint the picture with where I'm going with that, they're basically shutting down everybody that's responsible for oversight, which is not surprising to me. But that's it for USCIS. ELIR, so these are your IJs, your courts. They are pausing what they're going to call non-essential functions, which is going to include all non-detained immigration court hearings. So if you are out in the world, you are not detained, and you are somebody who's been issued an NTA, I would expect a reschedule when the courts resume their normal functions. So that would be the impact there. I think that the people that are still detained are probably, going to proceed as usual. That's at least the assertion they're putting forth, because they want to prioritize those people that are detained. So this is where you get into asylum applications and how are they impacted. So it depends on whether or not the asylum claim is an active claim or an affirmative claim or a defensive claim. If it's an affirmative claim, meaning that you are requesting it, through, let's say, USCIS, if you're requesting asylum, then you are in the non-essential bucket, right? You're the bucket of people that are out in the world that are not detained. If it's defensive, it's usually because you've asserted it as a defense to removal. Typically, that's going to be somebody that is detained. So those are the people who, would be impacted. Is anybody that's not detained. That could change if they determine that those people are essential. They're probably not going to. I'm just going to be honest with you. They have fired a bunch of IJs and drastically increased the caseload. So the idea that they're then going to tell the IJs, hey, you have to work on all of these cases while the government is closed, probably not going to happen. Just real quick, the last two, CBP, they're essential. CBP is gonna keep running. They're not going to start shutting down CBP. The only people that could be impacted with CBP would possibly be people that are applying for L1s directly at the border, your Canadians. Those individuals could possibly be impacted just because they may have limited staffing for people that are able to adjudicate those kinds of cases. Department of State. This is the one that's a little bit confusing. And let me explain why. The Department of State is also fee funded, meaning that you pay for a visa and obviously that goes into the pot of the Department of State. So they have a reserve of fees, but that reserve of fees is kind of based on the place you're applying, right? The country you're applying. So like a place like India that has tons of visa applicants, they likely are going to have a big fee reserve, versus maybe let's say like Ireland. Ireland may not have a large fee reserve because they don't have as many people applying for visas. If the fee reserve runs dry at a consulate, what can happen is they will limit services to emergencies and diplomatic visas. So what does that mean in the short term? Probably nothing. If we get to a point where we are into 2 months into a shutdown or 2.5 months, 3 months, then you could potentially see some sort of impact at the consulates. It would be very shocking if the shutdown were to take that long. Just to be blunt, typically when the shutdown starts hitting the point where government employees are missing multiple paychecks and they're starting to have issues with paying bills and things like that, that's when pressure starts to get really ramped up. And so it just would be very difficult for me to see us getting into 2 months and 3 months. I could be wrong, but gosh, I hope I'm not wrong. But that's pretty much it in terms of everybody with, from Department of State to ICE. So for your average individual that's in the United States working subject to a work visa, how are you impacted? You're not really impacted that much for right now. That's just the truth of it. Absent new policies being introduced to basically put some teeth onto these claims that there'll be slowdowns, there won't be. And if there are actual policies put out claiming that there will be slowdowns within USCIS, I would expect them to likely be challenged in court.
Taking that up, and you actually answered my the second question which I had is that is if USCIS is fee funded, why are applications and approvals still slowing down? So you already answered that. Thank you so much for that as well. So we have viewers who have joined us with questions, and I can see Ricky, who is one of our very frequent viewers. Thank you so much for joining us, Ricky and Imran, and for participating with your comments and questions. Ricky, there's a lot you want to know, so let me just try to pick one before heading to Imran's, and let's take up. I am in the US and plan to travel to my home country for stamping. Will those with approved H-1B have to pay $100K after first time visa stamping in their home country upon entry into the US?
So for now, we have not seen the 100K fee applied to anyone. As of right now, there has not been a petition that was filed. I say was because we currently cannot process labor condition applications. So without a certified LCA, we can't file an H-1B. So I have to say was to the cases that were actually available prior to the shutdown. We have not seen the fee be requested for any of those H-1Bs, anything that was filed. Transfers, amendments, extensions, change of status, new employment, no fee application whatsoever. As a result of that, it's my belief right now that this 100K fee does not have an actual mechanism in place for its implementation, and they're not going to be enforcing it as a result. That's the short-term issue. Where I think that the issue will become apparent will be in next year's visa lottery. I believe that next year's visa lottery is going to be where they bring out the 100K fee. And realistically, that fee is going to be applied only to people applying outside of the United States. And what I think they're doing right now is there's a visa program fee thing going on that they're doing in some of the countries in Africa, where you pay a fee, like a bond type fee. I think that they're kind of setting that up as a way that they're going to kind of use that policy to work on this $100,000 fee to create a mechanism for submission of payment. And that's how they're going to start implementing it. That would be my guess. So my thought is, if you are already cap exempt, you are, oh, wow. Sorry, just got an alert that federal workers are not entitled to back pay after the shutdown. The White House is now arguing. So they're telling people, don't expect back pay, but if you're essential, keep coming in and doing your job. What an incredible mechanism the United States government is. Anyway, so that all is to say, no, I don't believe that this 100K thing will apply to you. I don't think it's going to apply to anybody that's already cap exempt, mainly because I don't think they have a way to implement it. And so until they really nail down how they're going to do that, I don't think it applies to anybody right now. I think that once it's figured out, which I think their end game was always to have it be applied to the lottery next year, because legally that was their best argument they could make. 212F, it's the basis of this proclamation. 212F is an entry statute. It's a regulation that relates to coming into the U.S. So the only way that I can see this reasonably being enforced is by making it, basically setting up a way where you're saying you can't come in because we've deemed that under this executive order that you cannot enter unless you pay this $100,000 bribe, which is what it is. So I think you're fine for now. I have heard through the grapevine that there's already a legal challenge that's been filed by a group of attorneys to have this policy removed. I would not be shocked if it is completely dismantled. But for your immediate future, my holding is that no, you would not have to worry about the fee.
Thank you so much, Justin. And thank you, Ricky, for participating. But that said, I hope that we can stick to the topic of discussion for today, which is the US government shutdown, even if you have questions. So, yes, thank you so much, everyone. You can check us out. We are at Immigration Talk Show on YouTube, and also check us out on LinkedIn, Facebook, X, and on Instagram. And stay connected with us. Also, yes, Imran, we will get to your question, but for now, Justin, if you can tell us more, what happens to DOL dependent cases like PERM and LCA filings when the shutdown hits?
Nothing. They're screwed. There's literally nothing that can be done. As of the first day of the shutdown at, I believe it was 8 a.m. Eastern time, the entire website locked itself, meaning you are not able to access anything that is in that website. So if you had an LCA that was pending, still pending today. PERM paused. Everything that is related to those systems is paused for the entire period of the shutdown. Is it nonsensical? This is all during the last shutdown. So none of those systems are going to run, which means no new filings. So the problem becomes for your transfers, your amendments, your extensions that maybe were due at the end of this month and they didn't file an LCA yet. All of those people are in bad situations. They're all in holding patterns, essentially, until the government shutdown ends.
Right. Oh my goodness. Well, thank you for that. And Justin, thank you for staying with us. But that said, if E-Verify is down, how can companies legally hire new workers during a shutdown?
So there's supposed to be alternatives. DHS has put these alternatives out before in 2023. You can go look them up. There's ways that you can I-9 people, manually or not use E-Verify. And basically, that was permissible last time. And also, when the government reopened after the last shutdown, they did tell people, hey, if you hired someone while we were shut down, we're going to give you a mulligan. We're going to say you can wait. You can do it now. We'll give you a couple days after the shutdown has ended. So I would look into exploring those alternative options, and understand that most of the time the government's going to give you an opportunity to do things once systems come back online. Is there a world where the Trump administration is so vindictive that they try to use these issues against employers? Yeah, totally. I could definitely see them doing that. But traditionally, it's not something that's concerning long term. I do understand that people who are in circumstances where there's federal, I think it's federal contractors, they like have to use E-Verify. Like they're not permitted to utilize alternative methods or anything like that at all. They're in a holding pattern. I mean, they're not able to join projects in those circumstances. So they're kind of stuck waiting unless the government gives them an out and gives them an alternative justification.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Justin, for taking that up as well. And folks, if you want to join us for a call, you can dial this number, which you can see on the screen above. The number is 425-436-6335, and the access code, when they ask for it, you dial in 988-888. So join us
The,
and ask your
the kids
question.
don't want to be on the phone anymore. What are you talking about? They don't even call each other nowadays. They do voice memos. Did you know
Yes,
that? I
I
learned
think we
about
should
that
have.
recently. I like that people don't even call each other now that are young. They just do a voice memo and send it to someone. And then you do a voice
Yes,
memo.
and yes, people don't even text because they're lazy to type. So they just send in voice memos, which is so true.
Yeah.
All right. So, Imran, let's take up Imran's question. He's saying, I am like worried about travel during a shutdown. If my visa expires or my documents are delayed, what risks am I facing entering or leaving the US?
So as I advise everyone about questions with travel, and I think finally it's taken 10 months of me screaming this into the void for you guys to listen to me. If your travel is non essential, do not travel. Don't do it. Stay here. I am sorry if your cousin's wedding is coming up. Send a nice gift. Stay here. Okay? And if you're sitting there going like, well, why are you saying this? As an attorney in the United States, there are things that we can do for you here while you're physically present in the United States that we simply cannot do for you when you are outside of the United States. Okay? If you get stuck at a consulate with a 221G, if you get stuck at a consulate with a 221G, outside of an extreme circumstance, there is very little I can do to move your case forward. Okay? Very, very little. LegalNet is not as beneficial in responses as it was before the Trump administration took over, just to be blunt. And the consulates themselves are not as responsive and not as willing to work with attorneys. I have cases that are now sitting for 2 and 3 months that I promise you we were moving along to conclusions last year around the same time. So things like, go in extreme circumstances, you have a family death or something like that. I understand you'll need to travel. If you need to get a new visa, take care of getting a new visa like that. Those are things that you can do. You can be prepped by an attorney for your visa interview. And you should hopefully be successful without an issue, right? But we can't guarantee that anymore. Okay. That's just the fact of the matter. It cannot be guaranteed anymore. I have heard stories from people who have gone for visa applications and basically been rejected within the first 5 minutes. And those people have told me not only was I rejected, but the person in front of me got rejected. The person behind me in line got rejected. And we're not exactly sure what the root cause of those rejections were. And here's the thing, the consulate doesn't have to tell me. All they have to do is check a box and say visas refused. Hey, 214B, visas refused. Why? Because we don't think you're going to use the visa we believe it's supposed to be in the way it's supposed to be used. You cannot challenge a 214B visa refusal. I cannot go to LegalNet to get them to fix it for you. I can't deal with the consulate directly because they're not going to care. So that's why I'm telling people, if you do not have to travel, don't travel. You have to understand that before all of this madness, the most adversarial actor we were dealing with primarily was USCIS. Okay. So USCIS would be problematic, filing for an extension, you get a giant RFE. Okay. We deal with that here. Now, USCIS still sucks, but I can at least make them see reason most of the time. And if they don't see reason, I still have the ability to take their case to a court in the U.S. If it's an issue at the consulate, I have very little I can do to help you with your case. And if it's an issue with CBP, I have even less ability to assist you outside of prepping you for entry. So now you're dealing with, when you leave the United States to get a new visa, you have one aggressive actor at the consulate, and you have a second aggressive actor at CBP, and then you come into the United States. So I would just say you really need to weigh your options and consider, is it worth traveling right now? And if it is worth it, are you prepared to not only deal with the consular officers becoming more aggressive in their visa interviews, trying to look for justifications to refuse your visa, and are you ready to deal with CBP in the event that they put you in secondary inspection? If you are willing to deal with both of those avenues, then yes, you can travel. Will the travel be impacted by the shutdown? In the short term, no, because the consulates are fee funded. If it's a long-term, multi-month issue, then the consulates could begin to become impacted. So that would be a thing. Immediate travel is probably safer than planning to travel in mid to late November in the event that there is a long-term shutdown.
Thank you so much, Justin, for taking that up. And Imran, I hope you've gotten your answer. Please do not forget to subscribe to our channel. Our handle is at Immigration TalkShow. Check us out on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, X, and on Instagram as well. And Justin, I have more questions. So my next would be, if I travel abroad now, should the shutdown trap me outside the US? Quick, short.
So no, not in the immediate future. There has not been any sort of declaration where they're saying we don't have funds, we're shutting down the consulates for all non-essential services. So for right now, no. If the shutdown drags on and becomes a multi-month thing where we're getting into November, it's possible. I have kind of in my head put this idea or timeline in place where I can't see the shutdown lasting till Thanksgiving in the United States, because I do feel like if we start getting into that territory, people are going to be really, really pissed because they're not getting paid, and now they're probably going to have to change travel plans and all that stuff because they don't have money. So I couldn't see it going past that. I don't want to be proven wrong, honestly, but I would say that if we're getting to that point and we still don't have a resolution, the government's not back open, I would begin to worry about consular services. But for now, I think that everything's fine. The trains are going to continue to run on time.
Question is, are immigration courts completely shut, or are detained cases still moving right now?
I'm sorry, what was that?
I was asking, my next question to you is, are immigration courts completely shut, or are detained cases still moving?
Yeah, so like we kind of talked about a bit at the beginning, my understanding for now is that detained individual cases are continuing, whereas non-detained hearings are going to be the ones that are pushed back and delayed. So if it's somebody that's detained, they are supposed to be running in the same manner. So, no delays or alterations for now. But if it's a non-detained individual who's under the purview of the immigration courts, then they can expect to be delayed at a minimum.
Okay. Thank you, Justin, for taking that up. And we have Rajendra also has joined us. So asking, could DACA renewal applications be delayed during a shutdown? And how long could applicants expect the wait to be? Any idea?
Genuinely can't give you that answer. DACA is so far outside my wheelhouse as a practicing attorney in immigration that I don't feel comfortable answering that. I know that there was a case that said that they do have to begin re-adjudicating applications. I'm not 100% sure whether or not it was allowed. I think it was allowing everyone to submit applications, but I know for certain that the ones in Texas are going to be adjudicated. So that's the limit of my knowledge about DACA, and I can't really speak more to whether or not there'll be an increase in wait times from the shutdown.
Thank you so much, though, Justin, for taking that up. And Rajendra, thank you for joining us with your comment and your question. Do not forget to subscribe to our channel. Our handle is at Immigration Talk Show. Check us out on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, X, and on Instagram. And so, Justin, does ICE actually stop raids or do enforcement operations even without paychecks?
Oh no, they're not. They're not going to stop anything. And I'm assuming that they'll be dealing with a scenario where they'll try to find some way to make sure that they keep getting paid. Um, but yeah, their services are not going to stop. The administration has made ICE their focal point of immigration, right, over the past year. And so the idea that they're going to back off on that apparatus because of a shutdown is nonsensical. What they're going to do instead is furlough everybody who's responsible for the oversight of these people and then let them be turned loose in a capacity where they can operate in an even more nefarious way.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Justin, for taking that up. And Ricky, I see a lot of questions, but so sorry, I'm not taking them up because they're not very relevant to the topic of discussion for today. But keep commenting. That's all I can say. And so, Justin, are consulates overseas slowing down or canceling interviews because of the shutdown?
Not to my knowledge. As of now, I haven't had anybody have a visa appointment canceled. I just had someone go yesterday. They did tell me their visa appointment was 3 hours long, which was pretty interesting. But that no one's been told, to my knowledge, that they're going to have their appointment rescheduled or closed off. So, kind of like we've been talking about, in the immediate future, don't expect to see any change with the consulates. The consulates are only going to be dealing with issues if they run out of fees, which in most of the countries where there's people applying for a lot of visas, your Chinas, your Indias, even your UKs, they're not going to run out of fees.
All right. Thank you so much, Justin. I have a couple more questions. If we have another 5 to 10 minutes, then maybe I could take them.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Can you give me 2 seconds, just not even 2 seconds, to kick my dog out of my office so I can stop listening to it lick itself? Be really appreciated. Hold on, just 1 second.
Not a problem at all. But yes, friends, do check us out. We are on LinkedIn, Facebook, X, and on Instagram. Our handle is at Immigration Talk Show. And do check us out. If you have any further questions, especially with regard to the topic of discussion for today, keep commenting and ask your friends also to join in or share this with your friends so that they could also have some clarification on the confusions and panic that they're going through right now. So, yes, I mean, it is really hard times or confusing times, I would say, because the US government has shut down, and it really has a lot of questions on all immigrants here. And yes, I think you can keep commenting your questions. Also, don't forget to subscribe. Once again, let me say our handle is at Immigration Talk Show. And if you have any further questions, you can also write to me. My email is nipa@staffingly.com. And you can also reach out to me on my WhatsApp or my phone number. My number is 408-335-6444. And Ricky, thank you so much for your questions. You're very, very active participant. I wish I could take them all, but I think today we are taking only relevant questions with regard to the topic of discussion. So if you have any more, maybe you could write to us. Keep commenting though. And so, Justin, if you're back, I have questions for you.
Yeah, go right ahead. My dog is away for the moment.
All right. So, my next question is if citizens lose benefits, but I still runs, so doesn't that reveal the government's real priorities?
Yeah, I mean, it's you have to look at what their argument is or what their claim is, right? ICE is essential. We have to have ICE because if we don't have ICE, then all of these undocumented people who are out here constantly murdering everyone aren't going to be stopped by ICE, the glorious enforcement agency. So that's their argument. If there's actually a harm that's going to occur with everyone else or but most agencies having to severely curtail their workforce and services, and that's just kind of ancillary to them, then yes, it's indicative of what the administration's priorities are. I'm not going to sugarcoat that at all. I mean, they're going to cut down most parts of the government that run, and continue to claim that ICE is essential because this is what the administration has purported is, the crisis of our nation. This idea that, if a guy can work as a fry cook and he's not documented, then we clearly got to arrest that guy because otherwise, I don't know, 40 people are going to die somehow. I don't know the connectivity between it. I don't think they do either, but it sounds good when they scream about it. So that's really it. And yeah, I think that the point of that question is, why aren't they treating other services the same way in terms of being essential? And it's because, yeah, that's where their priorities are.
Yes, and thank you so much, Justin, for taking that up as well. So my next question is, do shutdowns create second-class residents out of immigrants, paying fees and taxes but losing services?
I mean, because USCIS still operates and the consulate still operates, I don't think that there's really going to be a big loss for people that are paying for services. To my knowledge, naturalization ceremonies are still going to be occurring on time. I haven't seen anyone or heard anyone tell me that they've been rescheduled for a 485 interview or anything like that. So, for the most part, it seems like, people are unaffected, but there is still the issue of the people who are screwed right now, which are people who are going through perm because they're eventually trying to get an approved I-140, which they're going to use to wait in a giant line before they can file their adjustment, and people that need to file H-1Bs right now. And those people are being completely screwed over by the system right now because the systems that are in place for people to use to do those things are not operating. And so I would argue from that standpoint, yes, they are being given a disservice because of this issue. Now, it's not surprising to me that that's part of the way that this works. The way this plays out is, USCIS is able to say, we're still doing our job while not actually taking on new work because people aren't getting certified LCAs anymore. So yeah, I mean, it's that part of it is unfair and shouldn't be that the case. I mean, it's interesting that you can argue that the enforcement of ICE deportation, ICE roundups are an essential service, but it's not essential to keep a system operating that is necessary to continue to file petitions in relation to work visas. That is not essential, despite the fact that there's a real impact on, the economy if you cannot hire someone because you can't initiate your transfer. That impacts your business, which in turn affects, the economy right all. So it's silly to me to make that argument, but it is what we're dealing with presently. And yeah, I mean, those people I feel really bad for because I can only imagine if you were in a circumstance in what is already kind of a difficult job market, and you're in a situation where you had a better economic opportunity or a better job, because you got to do something more in line with what you went to school for, or what you want to do professionally. And you're basically told everything's on a holding pattern for you because of nothing that you've done or the company's done. The government's just closed because, two parties can't come to a reasonable solution on something.
Well, what can we say, Justin? And I think if only you could leave our viewers and audiences who are right now in a very confused and, a state of panic, I would say, if you could just leave them with some tips or some messages so that they can calm down a bit during these tough times.
Yeah, I would say if you're on an H-1B right now and you got time left on your H, you're fine. You don't need to worry about too much. If you have like 6 months left on your H, you're still more than likely fine. It's realistic. The government's going to reopen with plenty of time for you to file something. If you were one of the very unlucky people who was coming up for an extension and your company hadn't submitted an LCA, you're in trouble. You're not in a good spot. And in that circumstance, you might want to reach out to an attorney and consult with what your options are to keep you in the country legally. possibly filing a change of status as a stopgap, and then having the government open back up and files an H-1B to switch you back. I don't know. It's all going to be, fact specific. But those people, I think, get with an attorney. I would really hope in 2025 we were at a point where most people were not affected by that because attorneys saw the shutdown coming a mile away and filed extensions, beforehand, or at least got the LCA certified. So if you are in that niche, then yeah, I think you need to talk to somebody. But outside of that, for everyone else that is just kind of waiting for things to reopen so that they can transfer or file an amendment, you're in a holding pattern, man. I don't know what else to tell you. You got to sit tight. There's not a whole lot you're going to be able to do in the interim. If you got a visa appointment coming up, expect to be able to go to that visa appointment. You can go if you need to. I know that people, I don't really understand the point of this, but people have alleged that immigration attorneys are trying to scare people into not traveling because it will somehow generate more business for us. I'm not sure how that works, but let me tell you that the reason why I'm cautioning you on travel has everything to do with personal experiences from other employees over this past year, and nothing to do with a need to drum up business, which again, I don't understand how I would drum up more business. I hate working with the consulates, honestly. It is part of my job, unfortunately, and that job was actually annoying before this administration and is now full on infuriating. But if you do have that appointment and you need to travel, you're still good. I wouldn't expect it to be canceled. Go understand that when you come back, you might have to deal with CBP, but that's pretty much it. Most of you, if you have an NTA pending because you're one of those people who, your employer withdrew your H-1B and you timely filed a transfer in the 60-day grace period, and then you still got a stupid NTA, your stuff's going to get pushed back, and just deal with it. If you can't submit an MTT to the court, motion to terminate to get rid of it, then you're going to be waiting to go to court. And that's pretty much it. I mean, that's where we are in October of 2025. We're just kind of sitting around waiting for the government to do stuff. That's it. I'm definitely a little slower work-wise. I'm not going to lie to you.
But definitely a very eventful year so far since January, and a lot more coming. That's all I can say. But
Yeah, absolutely. Just a random thing to dovetail on here at the end. If you are someone whose company received a notice of intent to deny or a notice of intent to revoke under the guise that you submitted insufficient signatures during the filing of your case, I want to let you know USCIS has given up on that issue. They have relented and they are now accepting new signature pages. So as long as you're able to provide a new signature pages with handwritten signatures on them, you send that to USCIS with a little attestation that just says, hey, I'm the guy that signed, or the gal that signed the forms originally. I'm letting you know that I signed them then and I'm signing them now. Your case is going to get approved. And that is because our firm and other firms, we can't take singular credit like with the Sevis issue. Our firm pushed back very hard and basically said, we're going to sue you if you deny these cases. And our third case that we filed, our first two responses that we filed were denied. Our third case was just approved yesterday. And we also received reopening motions on the two denials saying, hey, we're not going to deny these anymore. Send us some new signature pages and we'll approve your cases. So if you are any of the people that are still out there and you have that notice of intent to revoke, they're probably going to send you a new one explaining that you can send new signature pages, but you don't have to wait. Just send the new signature pages and an attestation saying that you're the person who signed them. Your case is going to get approved. So once again, USCIS, or really the federal government at this point, just doing something blatantly illegal and then realizing that they're not going to win on it in court, just like with the Sevis terminations. And now we are where we are. So we'll keep doing our thing as immigration attorneys to make sure that they can't do this kind of stuff. But I just wanted to leave everyone with that, because it's a very doom and gloom conversation, a little bit of positivity here at the end.
But thank you so much, Justin. Really glad having you here. And folks out there, do check out Attorney Justin Rivera from Boston Immigration Litigation. You can check out the LinkedIn page of Boston Immigration Litigation as well. And also check out the link, which you can see on the screen. So thank you so much, Justin, once again. It was a wonderful discussion today as well. Looking forward for more awesome discussions later this year.
Sounds good. Thank you for having me. You guys have a great rest of your week.
You
Okay.
too. Bye bye.
Bye.
So, friends, thank you so much, each one of you, for joining us. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Our handle is at Immigration Talk Show. And do check us out not just on YouTube, but also on LinkedIn, Facebook, X, and on Instagram. And stay tuned here on Immigration Talk Show because we're going to have another interesting webinar lined up just for you. So don't go anywhere. This is Nipasa signing off for now.